It's not uncommon for a news publication to endorse a political candidate, proposition, or a certain campaign. However, in a bizarre twist, the New York Times just made a glowing recommendation for something the public can't even see. Last week, the New York Times editorial board wrote an article titled "A Pacific Trade Deal." In it, they described the TPP, or the Trans-Pacific Partnership, as an agreement that could, quote, help all of our economies and strengthen relations between the U.S. and several important Asian allies. That's interesting. I wonder how the Gray Lady has such a clear understanding of a trade deal that's so secretive that even most members of Congress have no access to the text. It's discouraging, to say the least, that such little attention has been given to these secret talks. And it's even more disconcerting to see esteemed publications like the New York Times actually supporting the deal. Because it means, like the EFF points out, that they've either seen the document and are refusing to fulfill their journalistic pledge to provide the American people with pertinent information, or that they haven't seen it and they're endorsing it because they know that being members of the establishment corporate press, they'll benefit from it just the same.
So that's something I didn't expect to see out of the New York Times.
Well, you know, that's the mainstream media. They don't like to tell the truth about anything.
Well, and that's why we're here. I'm Darren Howard.
And I'm Robert Nisbet.
You're tuned in to Radio Free Canada, video radio, where we're talking about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, CETA, and that trade thing that nobody's talking about in mainstream media.
Of course, you know, there are people that are fighting back against that, people like WikiLeaks.
So we're here to support what they're doing.
Lawmakers in the House may have just killed the Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP. Now, a quick refresher here. The TPP is a new trade deal in the works that would open up markets between nations along the Pacific Rim, like the United States, Canada, and Japan. But there are major concerns that the trade deal could hurt workers in the United States and infringe on online privacy and a free and open internet. Those concerns are only heightened by the high level of secrecy surrounding the TPP trade negotiations, where even members of Congress have complained they're being shut out of the process by more powerful transnational corporations. Now, despite all of that, this trade deal was headed for fast-track approval in Congress, meaning it couldn't be filibustered and it couldn't be amended. This is basically the way Congress has passed every trade deal over the last few decades. But this time, things may work differently. 170 lawmakers in the House have signed on to a letter telling the Obama administration that they will not grant fast-track authority on the TPP, a move that could effectively kill the trade deal altogether. Not only that, some of the inner workings of the TPP have now been dragged out of the shadows and into the sunlight. This morning, WikiLeaks leaked the actual text of the intellectual property chapter of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, a 95-page document revealing in great detail just where negotiations currently stand on a number of very important IP issues. The documents expose the United States as one of the primary drivers of a slew of new anti-consumer laws that could take effect all across the Pacific.
So we're taping right here in the sunshine in downtown Kelowna.
That's right.
Talking about global issues because mainstream media is not talking about global issues.
We rely on people like WikiLeaks to shine sunlight on these things.
And I cannot believe that the New York Times actually endorsed this.
Well,
I mean,
they're,
like, for
they're
real?
corporate.
Okay.
What do you expect?
Yeah. I can see who's buying the advertising there. I want you to do your research on the TPP and exactly how this country is going in the wrong direction altogether. But for some reason, Harper's out there signing all these deals.
Well, he is a corporate shill, and he's working on the corporate coup d'etat.
So we've got what? Well, let's talk about it. CETA, yeah?
Yeah.
Check this clip out.
Since 1958, George Choros has been the cheese guy at Toronto's historic St. Lawrence Market. He works on supply and demand. Right now, 60% of what he sells is foreign-made and cheaper. And if, as expected, the trade walls erected to keep European cheese from flooding the market crumble, he has no doubt who will suffer: Canadian dairy farmers. To get something, Harper had to give something, and leaked details point to dairy farmers taking a hit.
Dairy farmers are shocked by the magnitude of this giveaway, and we are upset. Farmers across the country are angry.
The EU currently has the right to ship about 13,500 tons of cheese to Canada each year, tariff-free. The new deal would more than double that to 30,000 tons. It's significant. because current duties on anything over that is more than 200%, which largely freezes out foreign producers.
I am very concerned that Stephen Harper will be throwing Canadian dairy farmers under the bus on this one.
Now, the quid pro quo is what's important here. It's believed Europe would allow more access for Canadian beef producers, as well as Canadian assembled cars. Why is this important? Because the EU has 28 members and 500 million consumers. Now, government officials are hoping dairy farmers look at the bigger numbers. 90% of what Canadians consume is made here. But based on initial reactions, they're in for a fight. For the deal to go through, Canada's 10 provinces and the EU's 28 members have to approve it. And the dairy farmers of Canada say it's very aware of that fact. Mike Drolet, Global News.
Okay.
Hi, folks. Welcome back.
So we're sitting here now. If you don't know about things like this, the trade deals means that foreign companies can sue Canadian companies or Canadian municipalities if they don't get jobs like garbage collection, stuff like that, and they say it was unfair.
Or if we legislate regulations to protect our environment or local economies.
That means that right now a trade deal can, well, exactly what Harper did with the budget, destroy our environment.
But isn't that his agenda?
Seems to be Obama's too. It's happening in Europe.
Speaking of which, check out what Max Keiser has to say about the new US-Euro trade deal.
The US and EU are putting together a free trade agreement that they're hailing as historic and mutually beneficial. But critics say it's ignoring something: democracy. Well, let's discuss this now with the host of RT's financial show, The Keiser Report. And here is Max Keiser live from London. Max, 119 billion euros profit every year. This is exactly what the struggling European economies want, isn't it? This is surely good news.
No, Bill, this is an unbelievable act of corporate hubris. They've invented something now, the corporate state or the investor state, so that corporations have the ability to override sovereignty, to override countries' legal framework for profit-seeking and rent-seeking.
But money talks, Max, and this is mutually beneficial. So European corporations will make huge profits. As you said, it's about profits, but profits are taxed, aren't they? And isn't that exactly what governments want?
Well, corporations are taxed less and less. You know, here in the UK, the big corporations we know are taxed very little, if anything. Very little of what corporations make and what the very wealthy in the world make is actually taxed. That's the taxable income, the reportable income. Most of the income that they make is either through offshore accounts, through special purpose entity accounts, is completely untaxed. Look, Bill, I don't think we're really getting to the nettle of how devastating this is. This is basically a business model based on Holocaust. This makes Monsanto's genetically modified seeds, which are causing widespread devastation across the world. Not only does it cause devastation, but Monsanto can sue a country like India for the Indian farmers who are committing suicide because it inconvenienced them.
Okay.
It's the most devastating piece of legislation pro-corporation in the history we've ever seen. It's absolutely baffling, mind-numbing. Whoever cooked this up, and I know who it is, by the way, Barack Obama, the most corporate-friendly, Holocaust, genocide-provoking idiot that has ever occupied the White House. He just threw the keys to these corporations and said, sue everybody you kill.
All right,
makes
Max,
killing and genocide a legitimate business model.
Thank you very much indeed, Max, for sharing us your honest thoughts. Thank you.
So there you have it. The world leaders just handing the keys to corporations and creating a corporate sovereign state.
I'm not exactly sure what the idea here, okay, really is. We're supposed to all work for major corporations?
It's a neo-feudalist society that they're promoting.
Neo-feudalist, that's the word of the day. And if you don't think so,
check out what science is funded by.
The ACSH bills itself as an independent research advocacy organization devoted to debunking junk science. Good, we need somebody debunking that junk science. However, a recently leaked document reveals that the ACSH depends heavily on funding from corporations that have a financial stake in the scientific debates that they're addressing. So take, for instance, the document shows that the ACSH receives funding from the following companies: American Petroleum Institute, Bayer Crop Science, Chevron, Bristol-Myers Squibb, Coca-Cola, Dow Agro, ExxonMobil, McDonald's, Pepsi, Pfizer, Philip Morris, Reynolds, Syngenta. Let's say this is what they have to say about what they do. The ACSH protects consumer freedom from a variety of unscientifically based activist organizations, such as the Natural Resources Defense Council, the Center for Science in the Public Interest, and Environmental Working Group that use junk science and hyperbole about risk to promote fears about our food, pharmaceuticals, and chemicals, other environmental and lifestyle factors. You know, the ACSH, now they wouldn't steer us wrong. After all, they've told us that GMOs are completely safe. This is what they've said. And what are we to be worried about? After all, shouldn't we believe a science and health report that it's funded by Dow Agro, Syngenta, and Monsanto? Bottom line, when you hear scientists from the ACSH saying that something is completely safe, you can be pretty sure that it's not.
So there you have it, the true agenda of the corporations. They're funding science to tell you that their agenda is good for you.
And it's like they're funding newspapers to say that their agenda is good for you.
However, we go beyond the headlines and beyond the mainstream and look at the real meat of the subject. So we expect you to do the same.
Yeah, we're really urging you, do your research. Check out the TPP and CETA. See the way that our futures are getting signed away for no other reason than they have better media. So we're going to get suits and ties one of these days.
One of these days. Nah.
I'm Darren Howard.
I'm Robert Nisbet.
We're going to be right back after these.
That was better.
A lot of people think poverty is a problem for other people in other neighborhoods. But even if you or no one you know is ever affected by poverty, not doing anything about poverty is costing us all. British Columbia has the highest poverty rate in Canada. Not addressing this comes at a price. And this is what it looks like when we do the math. For starters, it costs us $1.2 billion per year to pay for the healthcare costs related to poverty. We've heard a lot lately about how we need to get tough on crime. But some crime could be prevented by reducing poverty, which is linked to crimes of desperation, low literacy rates, and living in unsafe situations. The poverty-related costs of crime in BC add up to $745 million per year. Then, there's the income that the poor might have earned from working, if they had access to better supports and training. Or the income that the working poor could have earned, if their jobs paid better wages. This is also a loss to our economy, to the collective wealth of our society. And it adds up to as much as $7.3 billion per year. Altogether, it works out to between $8 and $9 billion every year. This is a terrible deal. And the worst part of this is that it would cost us between $3 and $4 billion per year to put an effective poverty reduction plan in place. That's less than half of what poverty is costing us now. You don't have to be an economist to see that it costs more to keep people in poverty than it does to fix the problem. It's just simple math. Not for other people in other neighborhoods, but for all of us.